before creation ever dared to breathe, before time unfolded its first trembling moment, before light itself knew that it could exist, there was only the monad, the infinite one. Not a being, not a deity, not a thought, but the unbroken totality of all potential. The ancient texts call it he who is before the all, or the one above the one. But even these names are pale reflections. The monad was silent so absolute it became awareness, and awareness so whole it became the womb of every future universe. It did not move, it did not change, and yet everything that would ever be was already contained within it like an eternal seed dreaming of stars. In this primordial stillness, the monad gazed inward, not with eyes, but with pure knowing. That inward turning was the first spark of identity, the first soft curvature of awareness within the infinite. This was the moment some mystics call the bright thought, the first impulse, the blueprint of all consciousness. In you, this same impulse lives as intuition, that quiet clarity you cannot explain. You didn't learn it, you remembered it. It is the monad echoing inside you. Ancient Gnostics believed that before creation unfolded, the monad emanated a perfect image of itself. Barbello, the first thought, the mother of all eons, the living mirror of the source. But before Barbello took form, before Nous, before the eons, before Sophia ever dreamed her luminous dream, the monad held within itself a silent truth, that every soul would one day return to this unbroken wholeness. That truth is not history, it is your destiny. Your soul still carries the imprint of this moment, the pre-cosmic memory of being part of the undivided all. This is why no success, no pleasure, no relationship, no achievement has ever fully satisfied you. Nothing finite can soothe a homesickness for infinity. Deep down, you are not searching for meaning. You are remembering where you came from. This is why the world often feels too small. Why you feel like you're waking up inside a dream that doesn't fit. Why you sense that life was never meant to be lived in the shallow repetition of survival. Part of you still hears the monad's ancient silence calling you back, not to escape the world, but to see through it. The monad is not a distant cosmic deity. It is the living center of your being, the place where you are still whole, untouched by trauma, programming, conditioning, or fear. It is your spiritual DNA. Every revelation you've ever had, every moment of clarity, every sudden expansion of consciousness has been the monad within you stirring, remembering itself through your awareness. So tonight, as you listen, imagine that something ancient within you is waking, something older than the galaxies, something that has never been wounded, never been lost, never been separated, something that has waited patiently for you to remember. This journey is not about learning anything new. It is about returning to the truth you carried before you entered this world. And so we begin, not with creation, but with the remembrance that you were never created. You were emanated from a source that cannot be divided, a spark of the monad, a living fragment of the infinite one. Every great story begins with a thought. But the first story began with the first thought, Barbello. She was the luminous reflection of the monad, the perfect image of the infinite, the mother womb of all existence. When the monad turned inward and perceived itself, Barbello blossomed into being as its living awareness. And from that moment, the architecture of souls was set in motion. Barbello did not create you, Barbello revealed you. because within her infinite radiance, she saw all the souls that would one day rise, descend, forget, awaken, fall, remember, and transcend. You were among them, a spark encoded with purpose long before your first breath on earth. Ancient texts describe her as the light that knows, the womb of truth, the memory field where every soul is written. This field is not somewhere else. It is accessible through intuition, stillness, silence, and the quiet call you sometimes feel inside your chest. From Barbello came Nous, the divine mind, and from Nous came the eons, living principles of consciousness, like truth, grace, thought, wisdom, and life. These are not mythic characters, they are structures inside your own soul. When you feel sudden clarity, that is Nous speaking. When you feel a surge of compassion, that is the eon of grace. When you feel called to break cycles, that is the eon of thought waking within you. And then came Sophia, the luminous architect whose longing to know the source birthed the drama of separation, forgetfulness, and the human experience. Her descent encoded the most important truth of all, that even a fall from the heights of the pleroma becomes the path home. Your suffering, your confusion, your darkest nights, all of it hides the spark of the monad remembering itself through experience. This is why your spiritual journey has never been random. Your synchronicities, your heartbreaks, your awakenings, your patterns, these are not accidents. They are epicycles of remembrance. Your monad is not asleep, it is orchestrating your return. Everything you have ever secretly felt about yourself, that you were meant for more, that you came here for a reason, that something ancient is unfolding inside you, is true. You are not awakening now. You are simply removing the layers that hid the memory of who you already were. Your divine blueprint is not something you discover, it is something you allow. And the moment you allow it, the entire architecture of the monad begins speaking through you again. If you quiet your mind for even a few seconds, something strange happens. Behind the thoughts, behind the emotions, behind the endless noise of the world, you can feel a subtle vibration, a hum, a presence, a lightness. That is the echo of the One, the monad still breathing inside you. This echo is what ancient mystics called the indwelling light. It is what the Gospel of Thomas refers to when it says, "You came from the light, and to the light you will return." But the part people forget is that the light never left. It just fell asleep under layers of conditioning, trauma, and distraction. Yet everyone has moments when it resurfaces, a sudden intuition, a knowing you can't explain, a dream that feels more real than waking life, a moment of overwhelming peace. These are not anomalies. They are your original consciousness pushing through. Modern science tries to describe this as quantum intuition, zero-point awareness, or fractal consciousness. But ancient texts simply called it by its true name, remembrance. Your spiritual DNA is not metaphor. It is the architecture of your soul, a lattice of awareness connecting you directly to the monad. When you awaken, you're not creating a new identity, you're remembering a forgotten one. This is why your awakening has felt both exhilarating and terrifying. When you begin to hear your monad again, you stop fitting into the artificial structures of this world. The job that once felt stable feels heavy. The relationships built on old versions of you crumble. The beliefs you once clung to feel too small. Awakening is not comfortable, it is catastrophic. because the false self cannot survive contact with the truth. But here is the beauty. Every time something falls away, it is your monad clearing space for your divine blueprint to emerge. You are not losing yourself. You are shedding the version of you built on fear, programming, and forgetting. Your spiritual DNA contains your purpose, your gifts, your path, your highest timeline. It is not given to you. It is revealed as you rise. The more you embody your truth, the more the universe rearranges itself around you. This is why synchronicities multiply, opportunities appear, relationships shift. You are aligning with the blueprint that was written long before your birth. And once this blueprint activates, the universe begins speaking to you differently, not in signs you must interpret, but in direct knowing. The echo of the One becomes a voice you can finally hear. The greatest spiritual illusion is that your purpose lies outside you, in a career, a relationship, a mission, or a destiny waiting to be revealed by some external force. But your purpose is woven into your being like a hidden chord humming beneath the noise of everyday life. To decode your blueprint, you don't need to seek anything. You need to listen. Deep beneath the mind's chatter is a current of truth that never contradicts itself. It is steady, ancient, and unmistakable. When you feel a pull towards something, not a desire, not an impulse, but a pull, that is your monad signaling alignment. When you feel resistance, heaviness, or shrinking, that is deviation. Your blueprint reveals itself through expansion and contraction, through resonance and dissonance, through what feels alive versus what feels dead. This is why meditation, silence, and intentional stillness have always been sacred. Not because they grant enlightenment, but because they strip away the noise long enough for you to hear the architect within. You were not created as a random consciousness thrown into a chaotic world. You were emanated with precision. Everything about you, your passions, your wounds, your fears, your gifts, is part of your design. The ancient Hermeticists said, "As above, so below." But the deeper truth is, as within, so without. The outer world mirrors your internal blueprint. When you dishonor your truth, your life becomes chaotic. When you honor it, everything begins syncing with impossible precision. The universe becomes your collaborator. To decode your blueprint, you must start noticing the patterns. What themes repeat in your life? What lessons return until you finally integrate them? What dreams cling to you even when you try to abandon them? These are not coincidences. They are instructions. Your monad whispers through desire that does not fade, through intuition that will not shut up, through a sense of destiny that feels both terrifying and inevitable. The blueprint does not demand obedience. It demands honesty. And honesty is the rarest form of courage. When you finally admit what you've always known, that you are here for something greater, the entire structure of your life begins rearranging around your truth. Not because you forced anything, but because you stopped resisting the architect within. You cannot awaken your monad through force. You cannot storm the gates of your own soul. Awakening happens the moment you become quiet enough to feel the current that has always been flowing. The greatest spiritual masters knew this. Enlightenment is not an achievement. It is the removal of everything that interferes with the truth already inside you. There are only 3 techniques, and every tradition, every scripture, every mystery school ultimately points back to them: stillness, attention, alignment. Stillness is the doorway. When you enter silence, you return to the original nature of the monad, the vast field of pure awareness. Every time you sit in quiet, even for a moment, you simulate the conditions of pre-creation. This is why silence often feels familiar. It is not empty, it is home. Attention is the bridge. Whatever you give your awareness to becomes infused with your consciousness. When you place awareness on your breath deepens. When you place awareness on your heart, it softens. When you place awareness on your truth, it amplifies. Attention is the instrument through which your monad speaks. Alignment is the activation. When you live in accordance with your truth, not your fear, not your conditioning, you become a conductor for the divine current. This is what ancient texts called the river of fire or the living water. It is the life force of the monad flowing freely through an awakened soul. These techniques are not complicated. They are uncomfortable because they require you to stop numbing yourself with distraction. Most people fear silence because silence reveals the truth. But you are not meant to run from your truth. You are meant to embody it. Awakening your monad does not make you superior. It makes you sovereign. It liberates you from the false identities you inherited from culture, family, trauma, and society. When the monadic current activates, you stop living reactively. You start living intentionally. And once this current fully awakens, something extraordinary happens. Your life shifts from being a series of random events to a coherent narrative, a destiny unfolding with precision. Your divine blueprint cannot flourish in the soil of the false self. The identity you built to survive, the persona shaped by pain, praise, rejection, and expectation, was never meant to last. It was scaffolding, temporary, a construction around the deeper truth of who you are. But the false self is clever. It whispers, "You are what you've been through. You are your mistakes. You are your limitations. You are your reputation. You are what people think of you." These are lies built from fear. The monad does not recognize them. The false self clings to the familiar, even when the familiar is killing you. This is why awakening often begins with discomfort. Relationships cracking, careers collapsing, identities dissolving. The universe is not punishing you. It is removing everything that cannot hold your truth. Ancient Gnostic texts describe this moment as the shattering of the counterfeit spirit, the part of you that operates from survival, not sovereignty. Awakening is the death of that illusion, and like any death, it feels terrifying. But what emerges on the other side is the being you were meant to become, the one your monad has always known. Dissolving the false self requires brutal honesty. You must confront the roles you've played, the masks you've worn, the lies you've told yourself to feel safe. You must face the fear that your life will change if you become who you truly are. And it will. But every change will be liberation disguised as chaos. Your divine blueprint cannot activate until you stop allowing fear to make your decisions. When fear dies, truth speaks. And truth always leads you toward expansion, not contraction, toward love, not survival, toward your monad, not your programming. When the false self dissolves, a strange peace arises, not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of alignment. You no longer need approval, you no longer need validation, you no longer need permission, you simply become. and the world cannot help but respond to the person you were always destined to be. There comes a moment in every awakening when you no longer feel like you are seeking the truth. You feel like the truth is seeking you. Synchronicities intensify, dreams sharpen, intuition becomes undeniable. This is the return to origin. Your monad calling you back into coherence with the source. This return is not a journey through space, it is a journey through remembrance. As your inner architecture realigns, you begin reconnecting with the eons within you. Nous awakens as clear insight. Truth awakens as moral clarity. Grace awakens as forgiveness. Life awakens as vitality. Wisdom awakens as compassion. These are not abstract concepts. They are powers encoded in your soul. Even Sophia's descent lives in you, the part of you that fell into confusion, longing, separation, and pain. But just as Sophia is redeemed through remembrance, so are you. Every wound becomes a doorway. Every fear becomes a lesson. Every heartbreak becomes a teacher. The monad wastes nothing. Everything is alchemy. When you reclaim the light of the source, you begin experiencing life differently. You stop chasing meaning and start radiating it. You stop asking, "What is my purpose?" and start embodying it. You stop feeling separate from the world and start influencing it with your presence. Ancient mystics described awakening as the return of the garments of light, the moment when the soul remembers its original radiance. You are not becoming divine. You are remembering that you always were. The return to origin is not upward, it is inward. When you reconnect with your monad, the universe becomes intelligible again. You see the threads behind events, the patterns behind relationships, the lessons behind challenges. Life stops feeling random and becomes a conversation between your soul and the source. This is the point where destiny activates. Not the destiny assigned by fate, but the destiny written in your monad since before time began. To activate the living monad within you is to align your entire being, mind, body, heart, and soul with truth. Not the truth taught to you. The truth that arises from within you like a flame, remembering how to burn. This activation begins subtly. A shift in the way you breathe, the way you choose, the way you speak to yourself. You stop living from scarcity and start living from abundance. You stop making decisions from fear and begin making them from clarity. You stop betraying your inner knowing and start honoring it with sacred discipline. The living monad expresses itself through 3 signs. 1. Clarity without evidence. 2. Peace without circumstances. 3. Power without force. These are not attitudes. They are states of being. When your monad activates, you begin operating from a higher field of consciousness, one that does not depend on the external world for validation or stability. Your energy becomes coherent. Your actions become aligned. Your intuition becomes precise. People feel your presence differently. Some will be drawn to it. Some will be threatened by it. Awakening does not guarantee approval, it guarantees truth. The moment your monad activates, you begin influencing reality in subtle ways. You speak and things shift. You intend and paths open. You release and new timelines appear. This is not magic, it is resonance. Your inner world becomes so aligned that the outer world rearranges itself in response. Activating your monad means living as a creator, not a reactor. A sovereign soul, not a conditioned self. a participant in the unfolding of destiny, not a victim of circumstance. You were never meant to live small. Your soul has always known this. Now your mind does too. When you finally embody the living monad, life becomes radically simple. Not easy, simple. There is a clarity in your choices, a groundedness in your energy, a direction that does not waver. You stop trying to be everything. You become the one thing you were always meant to be, yourself. But this version of you is not the fragmented self you spent years building. This is the unbroken self, the original self, the self that emerged from the source before the world told you who to be. Living your blueprint means stepping into the highest expression of your soul in every moment. It means telling the truth even when it's inconvenient. It means choosing alignment over approval. It means trusting your intuition over your fear. It means letting go of what contracts your energy. It means loving with clarity, not attachment. This is the life of an awakened being, not perfect, but present, not flawless, but fearless. You no longer measure your worth by external success because you know that your blueprint contains its own form of abundance. When you live from your blueprint, your relationships shift. You attract people who resonate with your truth, not your illusion. You release those who cling to your past self. You become a beacon for others to awaken, not through preaching, but through embodied presence. Your career transforms. You stop tolerating paths that drain your soul. You begin creating from inspiration, purpose, and authenticity. Opportunities align with your frequency. The world feels less like an obstacle and more like a mirror of your inner evolution. Living the blueprint is not about becoming new. It is about becoming real, the version of you that the monad dreamed into existence before your first breath. There comes a moment on every path when the mind falls silent, the heart opens, and the soul steps forward. This is that moment. The moment the living monad within you rises and whispers, "You did not come here to survive. You came here to awaken. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are not behind. You are not late. You are remembering." The world has tried to convince you that you are small, powerless, limited. But your monad has always known the truth. You are infinite awareness, wrapped in temporary form. You are a fragment of the source walking through the dream of matter. You are the answer to your own longing. You have carried this truth in your chest since before you were born. And now it is waking. Feel it. The quiet expansion, the subtle electricity, the recognition. This is not inspiration. This is identity. The time has come to choose. Will you return to sleep, or will you honor the call that has followed you through every lifetime? The call to step into the fullness of your divine blueprint. The world does not need more information. The world needs more awakened beings, and your awakening begins now. Let this be the moment you say yes. Yes to your truth. Yes to your purpose. Yes to the ancient spark within you that refuses to die. You are the living monad. You are the spark of the infinite. You are the blueprint remembering itself. If this message resonates, if you feel something rising inside you, then your journey is just beginning. And if you feel called to go deeper into the hidden architecture of the soul, the eons, the pleroma, and the ancient truths buried beneath time, explore my Gnostic-inspired novels and audiobooks, linked below. Your awakening is not a possibility, it is a promise, and the monad within you is ready.